favorite DJ.
Lockdown. Well, here's the DJ that's got the jams on lock.
Happy Halloween, everybody. This is DJ Count Scratchula, keeping your spooky vibes alive on 103.1 The Grave. Ow, ow, ow! Wipe out. I know a lot of you ghouls and goblins are out there hunting for candy. Maybe even a few tricks along the way. Stay safe, have fun, and don't eat all the chocolate at once. But hey, speaking of tricks, no, not your mom.
My mom had me young.
We've been getting some strange reports rolling in tonight. Listeners are calling about, what they're describing as random assaults happening across the city.
Knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
Now, it is Halloween, so maybe this is just one of the best pranks ever pulled. Or maybe someone's going a little too far with the scare factor.
Lying bitch.
Whatever it is, we'll keep our ears open and bring you more as we know it. In the meantime, don't wander too far from the porch light, alright?
I shot him 6 times!
Stay tuned, and happy Halloween, everyone!
Hurry,
What is it?
Hurry,
What
there's
is
something
it?
on the TV. The news, we have to watch this.
Okay.
Reports are coming in from multiple locations across the world of violent attacks. At this time, details are scarce, but witnesses describe people behaving erratically, aggressively, even violently towards strangers. Emergency services are overwhelmed. We're hearing unconfirmed reports of hospitals turning people away, and law enforcement urging everyone to remain indoors until further notice. Again, this is a developing situation. We don't have all the facts yet, but something unusual, something unprecedented is happening right now. Stay with us as we continue to piece together what's happening. At this time, our newsroom is operating with limited staff. We will be going off the air temporarily, but we plan to return live as soon as more details are available. Please stay indoors, stay safe, and keep this channel tuned. We'll bring you the latest updates as soon as they come.
What should we do?
Let's just do what he said. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anybody. Anybody knocks, don't even bother. And that's the best thing I can think of. Let's just play it safe.
Okay.
I'm going to go back upstairs. Let me know if you need anything. Love you.
I love you too.
It's Halloween. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? This video, this whole event with our top stream is my favorite video in time of year for anything I do. I look forward to this video. I look forward to Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. There's a new energy that comes up in me, and I love what I'm doing, and I love that I'm talking to you doing this. And you know what? I'm not going to let a minor inconveniences like some riots and disturbances that are taking place outside stop me from delivering to you this video. It's what I do. And I just want to make another statement. Despite the possible apocalypse occurring outside right now, I am going to be here giving you all my reviews for all 31 of these zombie monster movies that are classics. And there's some great films in here. But before I do that, I want to make a statement here. The Brian Lomax Award, it's been a treasured piece of just recognition within the realm of our top stream, right? But I'm telling you today that that award is now the Rudy A Award. I am owning that. I'm going to take that as my one and only goal with every one of these videos that I do, to retrieve that honor. It's mine. I own it. And I think it's, instead of a recognition of standing out, I think it's a recognition of originality. So I'm taking that as an Oscar. I'm transforming the stigma of it just being like, hey, that's kind of weird. You kind of stood out from the group. I think that's a good thing. So I am taking that, and it's going to be mine moving forward. So I'm proclaiming it moving forward, the Rudy A Award. All right. So let it be written. So let it be done. And I'm also going to continue with the news updates. Again, I just came from downstairs. The news said there was something going on, some riots. I don't know what's happening right now, but I will periodically take a break from this ranking and give everybody here the latest updates. So again, safety first, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Be sure the doors are locked and you're safe inside, okay? And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and kick off this Halloween season with my ranking. So coming in at 31. All right, coming in at 31 this year is Garbage. It's Return of the Living Dead Part 3. And the reason I say it's garbage, one, I love the original movie, right? I got that whole poster signed by the entire cast. Two was, I'll talk about that later, but three is utter garbage because it just goes totally away from the concept of zombies. There's that trioxin chemical that's out there. But instead of turning this one particular character in the movie into a flesh brain-eating zombie, it turns her into a sadist. She still has her conscience. I mean, she can still kind of talk, which is still within the realms of what this movie and the whole mythology has developed, but it never at one point spoke to that type of effect when the trioxin takes over the body. So it kind of deviates from whatever has been built before. I know 2 and 3 took some huge creative liberties, but this movie is just, I found it a waste of time. I found it boring. I like the concept. I mean, a freaky woman into sadist. Yeah, that's kind of like my bag. I'm into that. Why not, right? But here, it just totally didn't make sense. And I have to speak, I'm going to throw the race card here in a bit because as a Hispanic, there's one line in this movie that I knew somebody who wrote it had no idea what the hell they were doing. In this movie, there are 3, I guess, criminals that are Hispanic, right? And one of them is played by the great Michael Moroff. And again, Michael Moroff, he's been in a ton of movies like Bamba, RoboCop. He's been in also From Dusk Till Dawn and Desperado. So this guy, from a Mexican culture standpoint, we recognize him and we love him. So when I saw him, like, hey, it's Mike. I love this. But he has a scene when they're chasing after the zombie infected girl and her boyfriend. Somebody's asleep in a tunnel and he tells this man, wake up, Gaga. Wake up, Gaga. And I knew when I heard that line that this person who wrote it was not a Hispanic. He had no idea what that word meant, because just for you folks out there, Gaga is the English equivalent to poo-poo or potty. So imagine somebody telling you, wake up, potty, wake up, poo-poo. It doesn't make any sense. So the dialogue, I don't know how that actor got that out of his mouth. I'm thinking, oh, poor Mike. God damn it. But this movie's garbage. I didn't enjoy it as much as I love the original. We'll talk about that later. I did not enjoy this whatsoever. Don't watch it. That's why I have Return of the Living Dead Part 3 coming in at 31. Wake up, Gaga. Wake up, Gaga. Coming in at 30 is World War Z. Now, yes, this is a great movie. It's Brad Pitt's highest grossing movie. But the problem I have with this movie is a couple things. One, the zombies just look too fake, especially that whole mob scene where, they're climbing on top of each other. It looks great, but at the same time, it looks completely fake. I never liked the look of that. It kind of reminds me of that Will Smith movie, I Am Legend, right? And yes, it's got some great action sequences here and there, but for me, the reason why this whole movie is so low is because I was angry at the film. Because World War Z, the author, I think is Max Brooks, Mel Brooks' son. That was one of the first novels I remember being fully vested in. I don't read many books. I don't. But one of the few books I've read was World War Z. And if you haven't read it, it is a great book. It's like an anthology. Every chapter is a survivor's story of what had happened to them when the world ended, how they survived, and where they're at now, right? It's their own personal story. And I thought that would be a great movie, maybe like the Walking Dead show. Like each week would be a different story. At one point in that book, there's astronauts from the space station who are looking at the world ending and they're stuck up there, right? But in the book, and I know I'm not talking about the movie, but hear me out. In the book, there is man's last stand, the Alamo, right? And it's called the Battle of Yorkers. And that battle was supposed to be so epic. And I remember for years, I couldn't wait to see that battle visualized in the big movie screen. And when I saw Brad Pitt, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fantastic. We're finally gonna do the Battle of Yorkers like very good, right? And It never happened. The movie is a complete deviation from the actual source material. The movie has nothing to do with the novel. It's a generic zombie movie. Yeah, and I will give them some kudos to where, you know, the zombies aren't interested in infected people. They're kind of running around them like water over a stone in a river, as Brad Pitt put it. It's okay, but I remember as a fan of the novel this is like one of the first instances in my life where I loved the source material, and I went to the theater and I was fucking pissed. I left so angry. The battle wasn't there. It was just a Brad Pitt zombie movie. And supposedly they were supposed to work on a trilogy. I'm still waiting for that. I don't know if they're ever going to make it, but again, the movie's okay, but I am disappointed and angry at it. That's why I have it so low, because the novel is just far superior. If you haven't read it, read it. But again, that's why I have World War Z at 30. And coming in at 29 is a movie that got me in trouble. My parents got pissed off at me for allowing my kids to watch it, and that is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Now, let me explain. My daughter was about 3 years old at the time. She had loved Scooby-Doo. We have gone to like some live shows. She loved the television show, and what I loved about it is that it was a little spooky, but the monsters ended up being people with the mask taken off, right? And this particular movie, I totally had forgotten about it. I remember it being a big deal on Cartoon Network back in the late 90s, and this was, from what I recall, and I should have known better, is the gang had, you know, it's kind of like a sequel to the old show. They have done years of investigations, and they were sick and tired of the villains actually being people. They wanted to go to a real location, so they go to this island, I think, and there's werewolf zombie cats. And I remember my dad really yelling at me saying, "Man, your daughter's been crying this entire time. She's freaking out." I go, "Are you okay?" She's like 3 years old. She says, "Yeah, it's just the movie scared me." And I put it on. And you know what? It's pretty damn graphic. It's pretty damn scary for a Scooby-Doo movie. And that's probably why it's on this list. I mean, the transformations, the animation looks pretty scary. And again, think of it through the lens of a kid, right? You actually have these werecats dying and one of them getting beheaded. So it's actually scary. And again, I can see how through a kid's eyes, you're thinking it's just going to be this kind of like harmless show with the bad guy being, you know, whatever, some real estate scheme, right? Like Lex Luthor, but it's actually real monsters. And I remember it traumatizing my kid, me getting in trouble with it. But for me, it is a great film, but this film I know is very close to millennials or Gen Zers. I'm a Gen Xer, so I get growing up with this. This is going to have like a strong tether to you. But for me, I remember it as a great, maybe a PG-13 Scooby-Doo entry. The audience had grown up, so they wanted more maybe mature content, and traumatizing my 3-year-old daughter. So that's why I have it at 29. But it's a great cartoon. We should do like a zombie cartoon list. I don't know. But this is a great entry, and 29. Coming in at 28 is Zombieland 2, double tapped in my opinion. If you ask me, the first one is fantastic. Again, we'll talk about that much later. But this one, I think it was just, they waited too long for this sequel to come about. I think it was 10 years from when the original was released until this one came about. All the characters are grown, and I believe the youngest one, Abigail Breslin, the movie's really circled around her. She's now at that age where she wants to find her own community. And this group of 4 people go and they find a new community that's all her age, like a Gen Z type of sanctuary, and it's great and all, but in my opinion, the humor, the recklessness, and just the camaraderie between the 4 is what made this film great. And the original, of course, Bill Murray as well. That alone is going to get it pretty high on this list. But taking them away from each other and introducing new characters into the movie that, in my opinion, they wore out their welcome. It was funny, but it just grew tired. And of course, there's this great climactic third act with the like a monster truck. It could have been done more, but I found the soundtrack pretty boring as well. So, in my opinion, it was a decent sequel, but nothing compared to the original and the energy that the first one had. So again, the first one we'll talk about later, but this one, it just didn't really land for me. I haven't rewatched it in quite some time. But again, that's why I have Zombieland 2 double tapped at 28. It's okay. Now, coming in at 27 is Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Now, I get the original behind me, this poster right here. I get the original was a bit of like a horror comedy, right? But in my opinion, as a kid, I thought it was completely terrifying. I didn't get the comedy piece until I was much older, right? You can check that out, one of my famous reviews here that I made like almost 10 years ago. But I feel in Part 2, there were some creative choices here that I get maybe were funny at the time, maybe good on paper, but executed, no. To have James Cameron and Tom Matthews back and them even acknowledge like, hey, we've been here before, right? Doesn't this seem familiar? I get the pun, but it's still like, are we in the same universe here? What's going on? So I get the joke. Maybe it's too funny, maybe it's too on the nose, but for me, it just didn't connect. There are some great sequences in here that crack me up. There's some comedy aspects, like zombies checking out, women working out in aerobics outfits. So yeah, it's okay. But for me, I need more of that horror element for it to work. So again, it's not a bad movie. 3 is the worst of the trilogy. 2 is okay. But 1 is still the best one ever, and we'll talk about that later. So Return of the Living Dead Part 2, I get some of the humor. It's a fun movie in it of itself, but it's not a worthy sequel to the original. So that's why I have it at 27. Now coming in at 26 is 28 Weeks Later. Now, I loved this film when I first saw it, but it's been about 15 years since I'd seen it, and I saw it a couple weeks back, and I was really disappointed with it because for me, the element that's missing, because 28 days and 28 years later, I guess with Danny Boyle, involved in the production, there isn't really a heartfelt human element here. I get Sacrifice, I get what Jeremy Renner's doing, I get what Rose O'Brien's doing, the Scarlet's, even Idris Elba. So the cast is great. It's just the material for me. It was frustrating because everything that happens in that movie is a series of just stupid mistakes. If you think about it, the person kind of peeking through like the window blind at the very beginning, that looking for her boyfriend, that causes the infection. To the kids, they have the city quarantine and ready to go, and it's operational. What do these stupid kids do? They go and break quarantine and go off and find their mother. They bring an infected in. And the other thing is, I don't get the protocol. Maybe I'm being too logistical when it comes to this, but if there's an infection, it doesn't make sense to me as the military or anybody overseeing this to put everybody in one contained space when you should just keep them locked in their rooms. I don't know. It was a series of dumb choices. The action sequences are great, but again, it was really missing the human element. There's an emotional piece to the first and the last one that really hits you in the heartstrings. Because again, with any zombie movie, any monster movie, there has to be a human element of us kind of feeling connected to the characters and feeling sympathy for them, right? Connecting with, in other words, seeing ourselves in them. That's the whole point in any movie. And here, I just saw a series of just stupid mistakes similar to like the kids in Friday the 13th and those slasher movies from the 80s. And I felt no sympathy for them, and I was really disconnected with it. So I was really shocked feeling that way. But that's how I feel now about 28 weeks later. And I blame 28 years later. And we will talk about that later. On to number 25. All right, now coming in at 25 is Lucio Fulci's Zombie from 1979. And what I love about this movie is that it takes a lot of risk and chances that other zombie movies don't, while keeping the zombie lore to like its original state. I love how the infection in this movie is never really quite explained. It's explained that it's kind of like a religious, maybe voodoo type of thing, but it's all contained on an island. But again, it's a zombie movie, but from an Italian director standpoint. And what do we get with this? We get standalone sequences like this one particular one where this woman is having her eye being shoved through like a splinter piece of wood through the door. It's one take, pretty gruesome. And one thing I noticed about Italian horror movies is when somebody's getting killed, they usually just don't fight back. They're just there, screaming. They're just screaming and they're not doing anything. They're allowing the things to happen. Just check that out. Anytime you see a giallo movie, they're not really fighting back when they're getting killed. They're just like, just let it happen. I don't know. But anyway, you have bare-breasted snorkeling, which is a pretty shocking moment when it happens, but I'm not complaining. Like, okay, she's just gonna go, all right, why not? It's an Italian movie right now. And then we have probably one of the most original sequence, I think, of any storyboard or sequence in any zombie movie. We have a zombie underneath the water attacking a bare-breasted snorkeler, but also trying to eat a shark. That alone, that should have been at least top 5 for me. But again, think about the originality piece. How did they come up with that idea? But apparently the guy underneath the water in the zombie outfit is the shark's trainer. And they actually had that shark, I forget what type of shark it was, but they had it heavily sedated. So that thing is high. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing. That's probably why it's not fighting and killing the guy, right? But that sequence alone, I mean, that's incredibly dangerous to do, but they did it. And again, that sequence stands out for me. If you talk to anybody about this movie, they'll talk about that sequence. But I also love, I don't want to give too much away, but I love how the ending kind of is very reminiscent to some of the modern day zombies where they think they have the problem contained, but it's spread And I love that sequence where we had the zombies walking in New York City. So it's pretty ambitious for a film from 1978, especially when that little that little trait has taken place with other zombie movies as well, like a majority of the ones on this list. But again, 1979's Lucio Fulci's zombie movie I have at 25. Check it out if you haven't done so already. Pretty cool. All right, coming in at 24 is the blueprint himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Zack Snyder at Army of the Dead. Now, this one, I admire the sequences. I think he's got this like robust type of attitude when it comes to opening sequences. I mean, there's the Watchmen, and then there's this one that are up there, and I love it. Again, he takes a few niches from like Aliens and others, ragtag team going into a place they're not supposed to for a secret mission. And it's fun. Dave Bautista, again, in my opinion, I've said this many times, I think he is the most talented wrestler to transition into an actor that we've seen so far. And I think he's way better than The Rock, and I love the role for him. I love the liberty Zack Snyder takes with zombies, even though some of the nuances weren't clarified. There's zombies with robotic engineering wirings within inside them, so when they get killed, they kind of spark. I was thinking, you know what? Give Zach the benefit of the doubt, everybody. He's going to explain this later, and he never did. Damn it, Zach. Why do you make it so hard for me to love you and defend you, son of a bitch? But it is a fun film. The action sequences are top-notch. I think some of the negatives with this is Zack Snyder, like he does like to put a visual stamp on these films. There is a lot of slow motion, which I get some people complain about. I don't. But the one complaint that I do have is his use of this camera, which is like this huge, everything's blurred except for what's right in front of the lens. I get how it looks. I know he used it for the some of the sequences in the Justice League sequence with Batman and Joker were talking. It has a look, I like it, but it's used way too damn much in this film, and it can be a little bit of a distraction because the director's coming out instead of the story. So again, great film. I love the sequences. It's a lot of action. Again, a little confusing. I wish there were some loose ends that weren't out there, but it's a fun movie, and Zack Snyder's always going to get the benefit of the doubt here. So that's why I have Army of the Dead at 24. Now coming in at 23 is, this is going to piss off Cody, Pet Sematary. Now, I get the nostalgia. I get, like, if you grew up with it, it's got, like, this tether to you. I think it's a great movie. I think of all the Stephen King movies, this one for me, I don't see it as a zombie movie. Now, I can hear all the what the fucks in the chat, but hear me out. This movie is a tragic tale of a man losing his family and doing what any grief-stricken father would do. And is that a place I would like to revisit? No, it's fucking tragic, especially when he has to put Gage, again, back to sleep with that needle, and you hear the whole not fair scene. I can't watch it. I love my kids. I can't watch it. I can't. But it's sad. Even to the point at the very end, spoilers, I'm sure you've seen this already, where his wife comes back at the end, and he's kissing her. All he wants is his family. He's lost so much. He's not thinking rationally, and it ends tragically. Right, so this film, I get it can stay with you if you've seen it at a young age. I get it if you're like me, someone who loves his kids. It's really tough to see that whole sequence. It's tragic. I think my favorite part of this whole movie is the Ramones soundtrack. I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. Great song, but it's a great film. It really doesn't feel like it should be part of this list, in my opinion, because again, I know technically their zombies are coming back from the dead and killing people, but it's not in the traditional sense. It's more like an evil sense. They can come back and want brains, but no, they're coming back with malicious intent to kill, not to consume, not to take the pain away, as other zombie movies have said, right? No, it's just to kill, and that's incredibly evil. And it's tough. It's a tough watch for me, but I have it up there. That's why I have it at 23. Cody, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Chill. Coming in at 22 is Quarantine. Now, this one came out in 2008, and Record, which is the original movie, it came out in 2007. And Quarantine is more or less a cheap ripoff of Record. More or less frame by frame, scene by scene. It's the exact same movie with some differences toward the end. I'm not going to spoil it with you, but it's still the same setting. One apartment, they're discovering something on what possibly caused this whole outbreak. It's just from a different source, but it's still that night vision look, and it ends the same way. So I'm not a fan of movies that do this. I think Vanilla Sky is one of the other movies I can think of right off the top of my head that took a Spanish movie and just stole it frame by frame, scene by scene, and made an Americanized version of it. There's Ring You and a few others, but this one, it literally is frame by frame the same idea. Now, I have it high because of the technical standpiece. I mean, to make a movie like this that has it appear to be one shot, one take throughout the entire duration of the film is challenging. So I applaud that from the filmmaker standpoint. I mean, hell, making a YouTube video can be pretty complicated nowadays. So I admire the technicalities with it and the production design and how authentic it looks. But again, from a story beats and performances, which are all great, it's still just a carbon copy of Record, which Record will be on this list later. But that's why I have it where it's at. Maybe I should have placed it lower, maybe below Scooby-Doo, but no, I'm going to leave it here at 22. So Quarantine, 22. Now, coming in at 21 is The Serpent and the Rainbow. In my opinion, if you look at Wes Craven's whole filmography, there really has been an inconsistency with the quality of his films. Like, some are great and some are just horrible. It's not like you're watching a Stanley Kubrick or Zack Snyder movie and say, oh, that's a Wes Craven movie. No, it's not. It's not like that. It's more or less in the writing and the originality of the take. And I think, arguably, I really have to think about this. This may be his best film or one of his best films, maybe top 3, because this one feels like he is genuinely having fun. And we're dealing with a subject matter which is highly controversial. Believe it or not, I remember I was a kid when this movie came out. I was in elementary school, and there were actually newsletters that the school had sent out to us to give to our parents and have them sign, saying, be cautious, because this is during the Satanic Panic, right? Be cautious of this film. Don't let your children see this. You know, we want to protect our kids from evil, blah, 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 blah. But when you watch it as an adult, and it's just voodoo. I mean, it is a religion out there, but there was so much fear about it when it was released in theaters. And I remember my parents being adamant, yeah, don't stay away from that stuff. Don't watch that shit. So it just kind of course, what's the counter effect to that? People are going to be curious, like, oh, wow, I hear it's really bad. So when I finally saw it, and believe it or not, I didn't see it until I was early 20s. It's genuinely a very creepy movie. To think that possibly, I don't know, I'm not an expert in other religions, but to think possibly that voodoo can do this to a person. I think the villain, I'm have his name up because I'm going to say it wrong, but Zakes Moki. I know I butchered that name, but I think he's one of the best villains out there because he's genuinely terrifying. He's invading Bill Pullman's dreams. He's possessing people from 1,000 miles away. And the scary idea, and I know this is just an idea, right? But the idea that if you are his enemy, he'll kill you, but he'll also own your soul in the afterlife. And there's a climactic scene at the end of that movie that is just, it's disturbing because it's so original and so different and ordinary that it kind of stands out. So again, of all these movies, this is probably the creepiest because of the subject matter, how I was introduced to it, and just it really talking about the whole deal with zombies, but in a modern medical verbiage to like, hey, there's this item down there. It can help with doctors. Let's go explore that. I totally get the medical benefits of it, but just the fact that this could possibly exist is what's scary. So again, I think it's one of Wes Craven's best films, top 3 at least, and that's why I have it at 21. Now, coming in at 20 is Zombieland. I did enjoy the first one. I think Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg are just fucking amazing. I love that chemistry they have, that banter they have. You have one guy who's very stoic, and then you have Jesse Eisenberg just being his ridiculous self. And I love the comedy that comes out of that. I love when the entire team gets together. I especially love that this film, it embraces, like I said, the zombie genre, but it has a lot of fun with it. It has people just really enjoying the zombie apocalypse for what it is, having the kills of the week, things of that nature. And of course, the film, what makes this film, in my opinion, so memorable and fun is just Bill Murray randomly showing up. And his death scene is probably one of the best ever. So that is why I have it higher than Pet Sematary. That's why I have it higher than the Zombieland 2, because again, it's just a fun film to watch, but it's also very graphic. I love that they use For Whom the Bell Tolls at the beginning. It's a very fresh concept and look into the zombie genre, which I appreciate. And that is why I have Zombieland at 20. A lot of fun. All right, coming in at 19. Oh. What is it? Is it news on? Is there another broadcast? I'm going to put a pause on everything right now. There's another newscast, so let's go ahead and check that out and see what's going on out there, okay?
Welcome back. We now have more information coming in, and I need to be very clear with our viewers. What we're witnessing across the globe is no longer being described as isolated attacks. Authorities and medical experts are now using a word I never thought I'd say on live television. Zombies. That's right. Reports from multiple continents confirm that the infected are no longer showing signs of normal human behaviour. They are aggressive, unresponsive to pain, and driven by what can only be described as an uncontrollable urge to attack the living. Entire cities have gone dark within hours. Now, this next part is unverified, but it's spreading rapidly online. Multiple sources claim the origin of this outbreak can be traced back to an online figure, a YouTuber named Charles from Willy Screedia.
Fucking Charles.
Is that right? Willy Screedia? It's a bloody ridiculous name.
What's going on, chat? Yeah, I've been doing this for about 3 hours now. In case you weren't here earlier, I was letting everyone know that I actually was bit twice, actually, a couple of nights ago. And I feel great. I don't know if that's bad to say that, but I haven't gotten 8 hours sleep for years of my life, only until a night or two ago. I've lasted much longer than 2 minutes in bed, which I can't say that until any time of my teenage years. So I don't know what it is, but yes, I've been bit, but yes, I also feel fantastic. So for once, I feel much better than most of the world.
Charles is also known for his toxic, on-again, off-again romantic relationship with another YouTuber, Cody Leach. Again, we cannot confirm these details at this time, but the speculation is that an experimental virus tied to this circle may have been the catalyst for what we're now seeing. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you, remain indoors. Barricade your homes if you can. Do not attempt to confront anyone showing signs of infection. This is not a movie. This is happening right now. And if these reports are accurate, the world as we know it has already changed. This is Channel 9 News. We'll continue to come back on the air as long as we can. God help us all.
You know what? There was something about that guy that I never liked. I know he comes off as this kind of like frail person, but no, I knew there was something up with him. I knew there was a sinister, dark sexual side to him. This is only the beginning. Anyway, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. We don't know yet. There's no facts that have been proven yet. This is all speculation. So let's just go back to the countdown and enjoy ourselves. And if there's any other news breaks, I'll update you, okay? Fuck, this isn't good. Now, coming in at 19 to me is Pet Sematary 2, which, again, in my opinion, I think it's a whole lot better than the original. Why? It's a lot more gorier. It's a lot more graphic, and it's just way worse. Double the body count, double the everything. And I just love how the tone of it is just completely... It's more like a slasher if you compare it to the original one. The other one was just like a family just kind of falling apart. This one, you're just having more people infected, more people coming back, and more killings, more graphic killings. I do love the friendship that Edward Furlong has with his neighbor, and that whole dad dynamic where him being a stepfather but abusive and coming back as an abusive monster. And I think he even has sex with his mom. It's pretty fucked up. But again, I enjoyed this one better. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that I saw this at a special event when I was younger. This is like 92, 93. Me and my sister went. They were handing out baseball cards to this event, special like popcorn buckets before there was even a thing. And we had a wonderful time. It was a great audience theater experience, and it always resonated with me. So that's why I've always preferred Pet Sematary 2 over to the original. So that's what I have at 19, Pet Sematary 2. All right, coming in at 18, in my opinion, this movie, if there was a ranking ever, like which movies have the best sound design, this would be up there. This movie, by far, if you ever want to show off your DTS audio surround sound system at home, is that even still a thing? I was really into that back in the early 2000s, but if you ever want to show off the surround sound capabilities of your system, this would be the perfect movie to watch because this is incredibly superb, especially the first act of it. But I love the story. It's more or less U.S. troops invading occupied Europe in World War II. They find out there's this Nazi scientist, and they have these experiments of turning a person into a monster, and hence the perfect soldier. And I love the realism of it as far as like the costume designs. I love the set design of it taking place in the village. I love the practical effects. It's amazing. And I love the performance in this movie. I believe Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell, he's fantastic. I love him in this movie. And we have a great villain whose name I don't recall at this time. But this movie is a great watch. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's completely different from any of the films in this list as far as like the story timeline and just the circumstances of what's happening. And I think it's special. Maybe it should be higher, but for me, it's at 18. Again, Overlord, the best sound design of all the movies on this list. Now, coming in at 17 is Night of the Creeps, and if you ask me, there are many levels of being cool. You can be Travolta 90s cool, you can be Fonzie cool, you can be whatever you think is cool. But in my opinion, no one can be as cool as Tom Atkins in Night of the Creeps. Thrill me. Night of the Creeps is an 80s classic. You have parasitic little slugs that kind of go into people's bodies, infect them, turning into zombies. Turns out they're an alien race. And it's all happening in prom night. And it's pretty fucking cool. And I love this movie. I mean, again, Tom Atkins, in my opinion, steals the show in this movie. Just as this cop, was loner, works alone. He's trying to solve this crime, ultimately sacrifices himself to save some kids. But he's got one of the best lines, I think, in any of these movies. Is like, I got some good news, ladies. Good news and bad news. Your dates are here. It's bad news. They're all dead. Tom fucking Atkins. Again, if there's such a thing as reincarnation, I want to come back as Tom Atkins. The guy was a major player in the 80s and a ladies' man. Handsome gentleman, too. Am I crushing on Tom Atkins? Now, coming in at 16 for me is Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 version, Tom Savini's directorial debut. And for me, I know this is not really a big hit amongst fans. I think it's underappreciated. I think it's a great remake, and they take liberties in changing the ending and the outcome. Not too much towards drastic and offensive, but they change it enough to where it's like, hey, this is a great new vision, a great new take, and I can appreciate that. So again, I think it's one of the better remakes that are out there, and we all know there's horrible ones, some that are great. I think this belongs in that conversation as one of the good ones. And again, Tom Savini brings his chops to this as far as directing chops, and also the graphicness of this. I think there's a lot of great jump scares in this movie. I like the realism of the corpses as they're first introduced in the cemetery. They're more or less wearing what people would wear in a coffin, right? So as they're walking and stumbling along, the clothes are falling off because they're cut from the back. I like details like that. You can see the stitching from the embalming fluid and just everything being exhumed out of them, and they've been processed. So I like those details that Tom's vision had brought. And of course, there's Tony Todd, there's Tom Towles, and then there's Bill Moseley. I mean, there's a lot of people from the Rob Zombie movie realm. So maybe this is where they met. I don't know, but it's a lot of great actors, a lot of great performances, and again, Tony Todd is a fucking man. God rest his soul. I love his presence in any movie he's done. Candyman, of course, all these others. But again, great performances. And if you haven't seen it, I think you should. Again, if you've seen the original, and then you can see this, see the original first, of course, but then see this and see what they did to make some enhancements to it. And I think you would appreciate some of the graphicness, the kills, and the changes they made. Okay? And I'm not going to spoil it for you. So with that being said, again, 16, I have Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake. Now, coming in at 15 is a sequel to what kicked off the whole zombie genre, is Dawn of the Dead. This is a Romero movie that came out 10 years after the original, and it takes place in a mall. Now, I get the symbolism. I think a lot of his films, even the Crazies, which I'm going to talk about later, they all have a lot of political, social narratives that play into these films. And I think that's what makes it classic and what makes it more human. But more or less, the niche is that we're all consumers and it's a capitalistic society, and we're all just mindless zombies going out to the mall, even when we have no conscience for going to the mall just to consume things, to be products of capitalism. So it's pretty funny when you look at it from that aspect. But the film itself is not really terrifying, but it's very unique to the 70s. From what I understand, these were like films that were made outside the Hollywood studio, control. So this is just filmmakers doing whatever the hell they want in a zombie movie. Like, for example, I hadn't seen it in years, and I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, a biker gang comes into a mall. I get it. They're looking for tools and food and maybe some ammo, right? But why did they bring pies? and why did they start throwing pies at zombies? And then, I'm an older guy. I take my blood pressure every day. So I was really laughing my ass off at this one biker, for whatever reason, was hell-bent on getting a reading for his blood pressure while he's being attacked by zombies. Things are going to hell, but he's still adamant and trying to get an accurate reading for his blood pressure. And he gets killed with his arm still in the device. So it's like, okay, they're just doing whatever the hell they want. They're having fun. But again, I love how the film, again, it speaks at a time of that age in the 70s where, again, the effects are somewhat not graphic yet. Everyone has like this crazy, just kind of like gray makeup. The blood looks orange. It's really not that disturbing to watch. But again, it's the narrative that it's trying to speak to. And I love that beginning sequence, how there really is like a panic where there's a new studio that people are leaving left and right. They don't know how long they'll be on the air. So I love that the movie immediately starts off with a panic and you don't know what's going to happen. So again, I think it's a great film. I do love the sequel. I mean, the remake of this, the Zack Snyder one, the blueprint himself, the man himself, the legend himself. And we're going to talk about Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's version, much later in this whole ranking. So, but with that being said, Dawn of the Dead at 15. Okay, coming in at 14 is whatever's happening. I think it's finally hitting my area. I can hear the sirens in the background. Now, coming in at 14 is Planet Terror. I love Robert Rodriguez and all of his films. They have a unique style and flair to him. I think Desperado is still his masterpiece. But this cast, I do love this cast. We got Rose McGowan, Bruce Willis, Freddie Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, the great Michael Biehn, Josh Brolin, of all people, Jeff Fahey, which I love in this movie with the whole barbecue thing. He's got my favorite line in this movie. When El Rey's flipping the guns already, he finally gets the guns in his hand, and he's doing this whole, ocelot thing. Jeff Fahey looks at him, he goes, "That boy's got the devil in him." Fucking my favorite line, I think, of this whole damn ranking. But anyway, there's an energy to it. And again, this film, for those who don't know, was a double feature film that came out back in 2007. It was like a Grindhouse event where it was Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez showing some films in homage to the pulp films that they grew up watching in the 70s. They have fake trailers. They have like the aged film, the cigarette burns, all that. So I remember going to the theater. It was a long experience, like 3 hours long or so. There was even an intermission between the two films. But it was a great experience because, again, you can see the love. I think of all the films that these guys have made, this is probably the most fun they had because it's a testament to what they grew up with in the theaters, and you get a bunch of that B movie quality. Like the graphics look over the top, and the squibs are just insane, more insane than a Paul Verhoeven movie, but it just has that recklessness and that rough cut movie that you would see at the B movies as a kid. So I love it. Great soundtrack. Again, all-star cast. I love it to pieces, and that's why I have Planet Terror at 14. Now, coming in at 13, I was really thinking about having this in the top 10, but after just really contemplating that decision, I decided to keep it here at 13. But I feel it should be higher, and that is 28 Years Later. I know that came in earlier this year with some mixed reviews, but I love Danny Boyle. I love all of his films. I know they have a unique take and flair to them when it comes to the artistic choices he makes. But what this movie gave us that 28 weeks later was incredibly lacking was humanity. Was just what makes us human, that love, the simplest thing, like the love that a child has for his mother, and how rare and beautiful life can be, and how in death we have to honor each other. This movie had me feel things. And again, if you're like old enough, and I don't want to get too sentimental here, but if you've actually lived through the death of a parent, it's a very poignant movie, and reminds you that life is fragile, and you have to really just remember the good times to keep their soul alive within you. And it's poignant. And I cried in this movie. There's a couple of other movies I cried, and we'll talk about those much later. But I cried in this movie because it just reminds you, yes, everybody in a zombie movie, most of the people, most of the humans are cannon fodder. Most of them are supposed to die epically, and we're supposed to ooh and ah, but every now and then there's got to be a character. There's got to be somebody that you connect to. And this movie, you felt connected to that mother and her son. Aside from the zombie cock that was running all over the place, it's there. You can't do nothing about it. But the humanity and the emotions that part 2 was lacking, it came back tenfold with this one. And again, I love it. I'm looking forward to the new movies. I know the Teletubby ending kind of pissed a lot of people off. I get what he's trying to do. It's more or less like kids stuck on an island. What's the name of the movie? The Lord of the Flies. And they just grew up with the Teletubbies. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Danny Boyle has my respect. And I'm rambling now. But anyway, 28 years later is a wonderful return to form for that franchise. And I'm looking forward to the next trilogy. And I have it at 13. Okay, coming in at number 12 is the Crazies, the remake that came out in 2010. Is it 2010? Yeah, 2010. And after seeing it, I immediately texted the group and said, hey, this is the best Resident Evil movie ever made. This is what the Resident Evil movies failed to deliver. It felt like the storyline of them trying to evacuate Raccoon City. It was done well. It was done like from a small town perspective, and everything felt great. And it felt the anticipation, the stress of trying to get out of that town. And of course, this infection that was going about through the water and turning people into the Crazies. I love that approach. And again, I love the cast. I love the acting. And it was just the right length, another 2 hours, and I found it incredibly entertaining. I loved it. I do love the original more. And I know from a filmmaking standpoint, quality, it may be inferior, but there's something about the original that I prefer much more. And we'll talk about that later on. But the Crazies, again, the best Resident Evil movie ever made. Great action and great acting. And I love it. So there you go. Crazies I have at number 12. Okay, coming in at 11, I actually had this in the top 10, but I changed my mind right before I hit record, and I'm regretting it, but it makes sense, okay? And this movie is One Cut of the Dead. I saw this movie, oh my God, 5-6 years ago, and I loved it then. It's a foreign film, so just FYI, but it's an original take on the zombie genre. And what I love about it, the heart and soul of this movie, is just a father trying to reconnect with his baby girl. And there's any guy who has a daughter understands that, you have their complete attention when they're little, but as they get older, you don't have as much time with them anymore, and you miss those days. And it's more or less a heart and soul movie, but you have a filmmaker, a young dad, who has this reputation of just being more or less mundane and just kind of going about things and not giving it his all. And then he's given an opportunity to make a zombie movie, all with one take live for a new, I think, horror channel. And he's given this opportunity and he excels in it, but I love how the film is made. It's more or less a 3-act structure. The movie starts off of you watching the film as it's live, and there's a lot of things that are happening that don't make any sense. The second act is more or less them offering him the job, so you go back in time. And then the last act is the behind the scenes of what's going on behind the live camera. So all the weird hijinks that you saw at the very beginning that what? That didn't make any sense. It all makes sense. So I have it this high because, one, from a technical standpoint, I mean, I'm FYI kind of time out here. I'm making a little movie here and I'm having fun doing it, but the timing, the planning to have to make this movie in these type of acts and have it be cohesive and it all come together and make sense, I have to applaud the filmmakers for giving that effort, because that is an impossible task. I mean, think about how many movies you see that don't make any sense, or maybe Hollywood blockbusters like the fucking Rise of Skywalker that are just incoherent nonsense. Here you have a film where, as complex as it is, in different viewpoints and narratives with each act, you have it all make sense. And it's a wonderful movie. It is a comedy, and I think you'll enjoy it. And I have it at number 12. No, it's at 11. My bad. I have it at 11. And I highly suggest you check it out. It's probably my favorite film, close to the heart out of all these movies. So again, One Cut of the Dead at number 11. All right, coming in at number 10 is Record, and this is the original movie that Quarantine had more or less ripped off frame for frame. This was made in Spain, and it's the originator, and I have it in my top 10 because, again, from a technicality standpoint that I spoke about in One Cut of the Dead, I admire this film. It looks authentic. It's supposed to be like a found footage type of experience, but again, from a professional newscaster standpoint. So everything from the cameraman, the audio, the reporter reacting appropriately to what's going on, even the extras and the actors in the background, the attendants who live in this apartment, it's all authentic. It looks really good. And you can just slowly see, you know, just people's tempers flare and just how people just kind of lose their mind as the events get worse and worse and worse until the very end. And again, is it cliche to some people? Yes, I know some people don't like found footage films. I do enjoy it, especially when they put a lot of talent behind the lens and it looks great and authentic. You can play this right now and it holds up. And again, it's a great experience. It's a terrifying experience and an original experience, in my opinion. So that's why I have Record at number 10 in the top 10, baby. Now, coming at number 9 is the Crazies, and I was really shocked by how much I enjoyed it. Now, I know the remake is a much superior film. It's a lot fun. It's more fun as far as the movie experience goes. But what I love about this is that this is 1973. It's a different time. And George Romero, I know he's kind of pushed back on like not speaking to social narratives, but it's kind of poignant that most of his films do as far as what's going on in society. And think about it. This is 1973. You had the Vietnam draft. You had a lot of kids who didn't want to fight in a war, but the government more or less reminded them that, hey, you're the property of us. We own you, and we're going to draft you and take all your property, and you're going to do what's right for us. So it kind of reminds you that you as civilians, you think you have certain rights, but when things come, get really bad, like in this situation, you don't. And I think that's very poignant. And he's very on the nose with this when he shows like the military soldiers going through people's personal belongings, like through their wallet and pocketing it. It's on the nose. It also speaks to racism where that one colonel is a black gentleman and they ask who's in charge. He says, I am. And everyone's like, oh. So there's a lot of poignancy in this. And again, it's unfortunate that a lot of this shit is so relevant today, but I think it spoke to me in that regard. And again, I know it's a lesser quality film because from the directing and cinematography, you can see that it feels like an amateur film in some sort of way, but the tone, the narratives, and what he's speaking to is clear. It's like you can turn against friends. You can turn against each other when things go to shit. And I think that speaks a lot to what's going on then and now. So that's why I have the Crazies at number 9. It's a great film. Check it out. Coming in at number 8 is Re-Animator, and this film has a special place in my heart, and let me explain what I mean by that. We all have that one film experience where you're watching a movie as a kid and you see certain scenes kind of flash in front of you, and you're what they call traumatized and disturbed, and then you have a series of nightmares over, I don't know, the next few weeks, and for whatever reason, those nightmares resonate with you. And to this day, as a 48-year-old man or woman, I'm just saying, you still think about how that scene terrified you. And the scene that I'm referring to is the scene at the very end where you have the two characters going through some bodies, and there's the beheaded Dean who had a crush on what's her face? I'm kind of forgetting the names right now, but there's a scene of just a bunch of naked people just attacking each other. The overdose is one corpse, and he gets tentacles coming out. I had never seen a grown man naked before this movie. And just to see all those adults naked attacking each other and then tentacles coming out, it did something to me in a weird way. I can't explain, but that movie traumatized me. And, watching it as an adult, it's one of those movies that you go, okay, this terrified me as a kid. I'm going to revisit it as an adult and see how it affects me. And then you see the dark comedy aspect of it and how ridiculous it is. The whole cat sequence, which I found terrifying as a kid. I was laughing on the floor seeing that fake cat attack them, right? It was pretty funny. And of course, there's the other scene where you have the beheaded, I'm just going to get the actor's name off here, David Gale as Dr. Carl Hill. He is decapitated and he still is crushing on Barbara Crampton, and his body then gets the decapitated head and starts fondling the woman, messing with her breasts and then possibly performing fellatio. And again, you see that as a kid and it's like, fuck, I think I'm messed up for the next few years. And again, you watch this movie as an adult, you can appreciate all the practical effects. I don't know how they got by with that score. It's more or less a direct ripoff of Psycho. But that whole opening sequence also traumatized me. This movie traumatized me. Out of all these films, there's one other film I need to talk about, but this particular movie traumatized me. Just the violence and the graphicness that it was presenting at the time. It's a classic. I highly recommend it. Check out Re-Animator, which is why I have it at number 8. It's a great movie. Why am I doing this all the time? Okay, coming in at number 7 is George Romero's masterpiece, in my opinion. It is Day of the Dead. Now, there's not many films where after I'm done watching them, I feel like I need to take a bath or just go outside and just breathe some fresh air. But this movie does that to me. It's claustrophobic, staying underground with these people we're at their breaking point. You have the soldiers that have lost their mind. You have a scientist that's doing some kind of zany things. And then you have the people in the middle just that are very concerned because they see the two extreme sides just, they're about to break. And plus, not on top of all that, you have the world's completely over. The world's been overrun by zombies. And again, I think the practical effects in this, the mood, the tone of the film is really what stands out. It's over. Humanity's done. And this is the last remembrance of humanity. And look at what we're at and look at how we're at each other's throats. So it's very poignant in that type of regard. But again, the practical effects in this, I think Tom Savini, everybody involved, this is some of the death scenes in this movie are beyond graphic. Having somebody's head being ripped off their body and then you hear their vocal cords kind of being strained, that stuck with me and that really messed me up. I mean, we all have that series of movies. I already named a couple on this list, but that scene, I think it stayed with me for a while, and it took me a long time to actually revisit that scene on watching the movie again or watching it on YouTube. But this movie and Joe Pilato's death, they pull out a damn chicken. It was pretty fucking hilarious. But everything in this movie just makes me filled with anxiety. I'm stressed out of my mind. You have Joe Pilato yelling his head off, and I can feel his stress. I know why he's stressed, because he's trying to protect his men. What the fuck are we doing down here, Dr. Frankenstein? I get it. I totally get it. And I think this is why I appreciate this film that he's done. But also it's a film that I rarely visit because it's just such a dire circumstance of where humanity is, where we end up, and there's no hope. It's done. So again, Day of the Dead is, again, in my opinion, his masterpiece. Best film, best practical effects. And that's why I have it at number 7. And coming in at number 6, I have the original, the one that started this entire whole damn thing, is Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 classic by George Romero. I love revisiting this film. It's a Halloween tradition that I watch it every single year because it started it all. Where we're at right now is because of this film. It brought in a new type of concept with the word zombie. Before, it was like this voodoo type of spell. Now we're getting a different kind of take on this. Like, what's happening? We don't know. We don't have the answers, but now we're watching the effects of this virus, whatever it is. And I got to give props to George Romero for casting Dwayne Jones. Yes, maybe it wasn't a political move like he said, or he wasn't trying to make a statement. The guy was just the best actor, is what he said many times, but I do appreciate the fact that he gave a black lead a chance in this role, and the guy kicks some super ass, man. It's a great film. It's a great commanding lead. He takes ownership of the film, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of controversy. If this film came out, if there was social media back then and this film came out, I can imagine what the discourse would be online. People would be calling it woke, all this other bullshit. You think about it, how times really haven't changed that much. But I love the concept. I love the film. I love the simplicity. And I love how at the very end, you just have like this take where you hear newsreels of just people and more or less the footage of the people that you've been involved with this whole entire movie. You're kind of seeing what happens to them after the fact. Again, it's powerful, it's poignant, and again, it's the movie that started this whole genre of zombies. Again, if you're ranking zombie movies, I can't see how anybody would not put this in the top 10, and that's why I have it at number 6. Okay, now we're in the top 5, and starting at number 5, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the blueprint himself is Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, which came out in 2004, which was the screenplay, by the way, was written by James Gunn. So arguably, people say that the Dawn of the Dead, arguably, is Zack Snyder's greatest film. People say that's his best work. I would say you're full of shit. I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is his best work. I think Watchmen is up there as well. I love Man of Steel. People call it a masterpiece. So it's the start of a great career, in my opinion, but it is a standout zombie film, and it's the right fucking way you do a reboot or a remake. You bring it, you keep the core values, whatever the themes were of the original film, and you just add a little bit more to it. You modernize it, you add some different people, and then the scale of it is just beyond what the original was. That last sequence where they're in that little mall van and they're trying to leave, and there's that shot of the exterior where you have thousands of zombies just shaking that van. That's one of those iconic scenes that will always stay with you. It's intense from the get-go. Once it starts, it doesn't let go of you, and it's the right way, the right template. If you're going to do a remake of a classic, you take artistic liberties like the man himself did,
and you add more to it by keeping the core values and the core themes of whatever the original was intact. And he did that in this film. Again, you ask anybody, I'm sure this movie is with Autopsy Stream, it's in their top 10. It has to be. If not, we're going to have some words. But I have in the top 5, at number 5, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. And coming in at number 4, and I'm smiling because this is in fact my favorite zombie movie ever made, and it's Return of the Living Dead, the 1985 punk rock classic. And I actually have the entire cast autograph signing that movie poster there. So that's how much I love it. But is it number 1? No, there's something else there. Maybe some of you are surprised, maybe some of you aren't, but this film for me is one of my favorite films as a child, because just the intensity of it, the music culture of it, the soundtrack of it, and just the uniqueness of this film. That Tar Man, we've seen it. He's been in my intro, More Brains, that guy. It's iconic. You show that to anybody and they'll know exactly what movie that's from. But just the concept of just this guy, Freddy, played by, is it Tom Matthews? Yes, it's Tom Matthews. Which I love. Him and James Cameron steal the show. You have a young guy starting a job at this factory, this medical supply company. And then they stumble upon the trioxin drums. They think it's core because the Army Corps of Engineers had built these canisters. It leaks and all goes to hell. It's a fantastic movie. Lena Quigley steals the show as well. Oh my gosh, she's gorgeous. But this movie, I love it for just the unique flavor of it. You have zombies that can run, which was a new thing at the time. And also the concept with eating brains. That was never brought up before. Like, it takes the pain away of death. That had never been explored before. So the whole eating brains came from this movie. But I love it. It's fantastic. I've seen it at least twice a year, but it's not my number 1. There's something else at number 1. So again, number 4 is my all-time favorite, Return of the Living Dead. Great soundtrack. Surfing Dead by the Cramps is my favorite track of that soundtrack. Badass. All right, now coming in at number 3 is another personal favorite of mine. I'll be honest, these last 4 are going to be really close to the heart here. But for me, number 3 is 28 Days Later. Again, I love Danny Boyle. Cillian Murphy in this movie is fantastic. I remember it coming out and it having a lot of buzz around it, a lot of internet buzz, checking out the trailer, people saying this is the most disturbing film ever made, and it wasn't, but there was a lot of talk about it. And I remember the theater experience with this film. It was quiet. If you notice, if you've seen this movie lately, there's no jokes, maybe a joke here and there for a giggle, but most of the time you're watching it, you're just in silence, and the whole theater was silent the entire time. And I find that very unique, because we were silent, but we were intrigued. We were silent, but we weren't bored. It was just that we were watching this film. I think it was filmed on a digital 8 camera. I know Danny Boyle, for 28 years later, he filmed with an iPhone, I think. So I love how he takes, again, that artistic liberty in trying to capture that story through a lens that's appropriate. In this film, through a digital 8, it kind of feels like leftover technology. Whatever we have left, that's what we're capturing. So I admire the vision, I admire the look, I admire the intensity of it, the handheld in some cases. And again, you have running infected people. And again, watching the film and reading about it before it came out, it scared me, because this is post 9/11. Okay, this is 2002. And I remember Danny Boyle and some of the writers saying the inspiration for 28 Days Later was because there was so much investigations going into terrorist attacks that apparently terrorist groups, cells, were sending people to school to learn biology to create a chemical that was similar to this. And the rage virus was something really close to reality. And I remember reading that. I got goosebumps right now just saying it again, but I remember reading that and it terrified the fuck out of me. Because you have to remember these movies when they came out. This is post 9/11, a whole new world. We're all paranoid. We're all scared. We're all thinking something's going to happen every year around September. And this film kind of captured that fear that we were all feeling, that paranoia. What's next? And again, I just love the humanity piece of it. It's just, you have Selena, I forget her name. I believe her name is Judah. And Cillian Murphy, Jim, they meet up with a couple, dad and his daughter. And I love it's just them trying to survive and become a family. And you have a father figure and the lead actor, I forget his name, and I want to say it because I love this actor's name, so bear with me. Brendan Gleeson, there you go. He's been in a ton of films, but I love that he's like the father figure of this role. You have Cillian Murphy, who lost his parents, and he kind of sees like a father figure in him. And it's like a family. And my favorite scene of this whole movie, to be honest, is they just went to the grocery store. They're having a picnic, right? And Brendan Gleeson tells them to come over, look at these horses, and he says, hey, look at them. They're going to be fine. They're a family. And I love that simplicity of it. Because deep down, we all want to belong to someone or a group of people that care about us, and we're all we've got. And this movie kind of reminds us of that, what's important. It's not possessions, it's people and people that you love that are around you. So that movie will always hold a special place in my heart. So again, why am I getting emotional? But anyway, that is why I have 28 Days Later at number 3. I will never forget that experience.
Okay, now coming in at number 2, this one was a complete surprise for me because I had never seen it before. I've heard of it. I've seen some clips, but I've never seen the film in its entirety or ever. I actually had a difficult time trying to find it. It wasn't until I think Sean sent us a link that it was free on YouTube, so I checked it out. And the film I'm talking about is Peter Jackson's Brain Dead or Dead Alive, depending on what country you're in. This is probably, honestly, no bullshit, one of the best movie experiences I've had in quite some time. I was smiling ear to ear throughout this entire experience. The practical effects are one of a kind in this movie. You actually have a mother who's so obsessed with her son, kind of like a Norman Bates situation, right? She actually becomes a monster at the end of this movie and pulls her son back into her womb. It's fucking amazing. And it's probably the most unique movie as far as Peter Jackson's vision and look. I mean, it's very Sam Raimi inspired. You can tell that he took a lot of liberties from that and just kind of went off and did his own thing, which you can see the inspiration, but I appreciate how the end result looked. You have a zombie virus that started with a Sumatran monkey, rat monkey, I think is what it is. And it looks awful. It's all stop motion, but that doesn't matter because the story in and of itself is ridiculous. You're kind of like, this movie is self-aware and knows what it's doing. There's a lot of comedic parts in this movie, but the over-the-top graphics, not even graphics, the over-the-top visual effects, the practical effects. This is one of the best fun experiences I've ever had. If you haven't seen it, buy it. I urge you to buy it because if you're a movie lover and if you love the zombie genre, you have to check this out. The Dutch angles, the soundtrack, everything is just completely over the top. And that one scene with him getting a lawnmower and just kind of plowing through a room full of zombies, probably the bloodiest sequence I've seen, but it's not over the top gross. It's more or less over the top comedic. This film, it was almost my number 1 because of the high that this movie gave me. I'm going to see it again, and I'm highly recommending to everybody who hasn't seen this movie yet to check it out. It's a great cinematic experience. Fun, scary, kind of frightening at times, but just over-the-top bizarre, which modern movies need this. Whatever this movie had as far as originality and take and flair, that needs to be placed in the bottle and shipped to every filmmaker out there because this is what I find immensely original and highly entertaining. So you have to check out this movie again. And I have Dead Alive. I'm shocked as well at number 2.
Here we are, the last one. My number 1 for this year's 31 on 31 Outbreak Protocol. My number 1 is Train to Busan. And I think that's going to be on a lot of people's list as far as at least top 5, if not number 1, because this film came out 2016. I thought the zombie genre was overdone and kind of like oversaturated in a way. I was forced to watch this movie by a family member. I'm like, fine, I'll give it a shot. I'm not even invested in it. And after I was done, I was in tears. I was crying. And I can't recall a horror movie about the end of the world like this was zombies. You know, usually humans are cannon fodder. The more people that you're introduced to in a horror movie, it's just more bodies for the killer to stack up, right? That's the concept and formula for most films. But this film, it actually took the time for you to get to know everybody within that passenger car. And you got to know a little bit of their lives and what they were coming from. And every lifestyle is completely unique. And when things start going to hell, you have a strong attachment to every single one of these movies. And I think that's rare. I think if you think about it right now, I'm asking everybody who's watching, think about the last movie where you cared about everybody, not just the lead or the hot chick with the big boobs and all that, right? I'm talking about everybody. You cared about everybody. I cared about the elderly, the woman and her sister. I cared about the guy who had a pregnant wife coming in. I cared about that young softball team. I cared about the father and his daughter. I was so emotionally vested in everybody. And when things started going to hell, I was crying for every single one of these people that died because I felt like I hadn't known them. Think about that. That's so stupid, right? Maybe it's not stupid. I mean, but why can't films replicate that? Why can't other zombie horror films connect you to humans this way? I find there's a lot of humanity in foreign films. That's why I prefer them in many cases. And they don't bullshit you. You know, kids will die in these films. And this film, again, as I said earlier, I'm a girl dad. I have a daughter. She's 22. I have 2 boys, but that attachment with the father and their kids, especially their daughter in this particular film, I was in tears because that last sequence after, no spoilers, after, the end, you have 2 survivors walking down a tunnel, and I, for at least a couple of seconds, thought, and you know what I'm talking about, I thought they were going to go there. I thought they were going to do the unimaginable, and the movie has had no rules, and I'm like, they're going to do it. I can't believe it. I was heartbroken, but it made sense within that world. And when that last person starts singing a song, fuck. It's so it's so powerful. I can't watch it. I can't even talk about it because it had me in tears. And I think that's the power of film and cinema, especially when you have a good writer and you take patience in introducing a lot of people to the audience. And that little song that's sung, it kind of goes back, it bookends to the very beginning. It just, in the lyrics, it just really hits home. And it reminds you of this, again, what's important. It's us, it's humanity. It's like how we treat each other and how we have to look out for each other. And when things go to hell, we are all we've got. And I love how this film brought out each unique lifestyle and personality with everybody in that train car. And I don't think I've ever had a strong emotional attachment to a film like I do with Train to Busan. It's graphic, it's over the top. I love the stunt sequences. The zombies look amazing. I don't know what the stunt coordinators over there in South Korea are doing with their actors, but the actors are going all out with the twitching and the body convulsions and everything. So they look great. And yeah, some of the CGI looks kind of odd, but it holds up. It looks great. It's intense. They're placed in a lot of situations where you're not expecting to be in, and you think that it's over for them, but they keep finding a way to survive. But yeah, this film is a one-of-a-kind experience for me. It is, in my opinion, the best zombie film I've ever seen and the most human zombie film I've ever seen. And it's an emotional roller coaster of fear, anger, frustration, and just extreme sadness and heartbreak. And that is why I have Train to Busan at my number 1 for this year's 31 on 31 Outbreak Protocol. It's the best. Well, that does it for this year's 31 on 31. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me check the news real quick.
We're back on the air for now. If you're just joining us, the situation outside is deteriorating faster than anyone expected. What began as scattered reports of violence has escalated into a full-scale global catastrophe. Authorities are no longer calling these incidents random attacks. The word zombie is now being used openly by emergency officials, and from everything we've seen, it's accurate. We've just received confirmation that multiple world leaders have gone completely offline. There is no communication with the United States government. The White House has gone silent, and major cities, including Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and Chicago, are no longer responding. Across Europe, power grids are failing. In Asia, entire metro systems have been overrun within hours. Satellites show fires raging in multiple capitals. Meanwhile, social media, what's left of it, is flooding with disturbing live streams.
Welcome to another episode of Adam Does Zombies. And no, that's not sexual in nature. Although it could be, because on this episode, I'm gonna be ranking some of the hottest zombies we got roaming around this crazy ball we call Earth.
Son of a bitch has gone mad.
As many of you know, after the apocalypse hit, I had to change gears. I had to switch up the show and now focus on zombie-related content from a human to zombies like you at home. Because as you also know, the only people that survived the zombie apocalypse were YouTubers that never leave their house to begin with. Alright, let's get to the number 10 spot. If you're a fan of scars, oh man, this actress puts the scar in ScarJo. I'm talking zombie Scarlett Johansson.
We're live with a local father who may have found the method to take them down.
Look, just shoot them in the head. They seem to go down permanently if you shoot them in the head.
And sir, how long ago were your children bitten?
What?
Hospitals are at capacity. Military forces are overwhelmed, some retreating, others abandoning posts entirely. Reports suggest this virus spreads not only through bites and kisses, but possibly through the air and sexual intercourse. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear my voice, please stay inside. Lock everything. Do not attempt to flee to the cities. They're gone. Survivors are being urged to ration supplies, conserve power, and avoid drawing attention. This is no longer about waiting for help. Help may not be.
Because on this episode, I'm going to be ranking some of the hottest zombies we got roaming around this.
And another one. For once in my life, I'm actually doing much better than everyone else. Perhaps
Are being described as isolated attacks. Authorities and medical experts are now using a word I.
What?
Now walk away, please.
This is only the beginning.